Haruto is an absolute filthy, no-life sweaty gamer who peaked at 12, leading the top team in a video game. 6 years later, he's still a nobody, but his life completely changes when he logs back in and finds out that his dead best friend is now an in-game NPC. So he decides to gather his old teammates to find out the truth while clearing the game. The story begins in a popular virtual MMORPG called Union, where the game's top team called Subaru, led by Haruto, is taking on the boss from the SSS difficulty quest called the Calamity Monster Quest. In this game, everyone has only one life, and if your character dies, your account gets deleted permanently, and you can never log in again like hardcore WoW. Going back to the boss room, Haruto jumps forward with his powerful unique skill and attacks the massive dragon. His vice leader Takanori follows up with his divine art and turns one of the pillars into dust, and their wizard Satsuki shoots the three-headed dragon with a bunch of elemental magic, which knocks it back. Seeing this chance, the other two members, Clive and Nozomi, follow up with their shape-shifting and dream magic abilities, and we also find out that their last member, Asahi, has an ultra-rare skill that allows her to see future, and she uses it to predict the enemy boss's attacks and helps her team with taking it out. After that, the gang returns to their base to celebrate their victory. While looking through the available quests, Asahi points out one called the Mystery of Darkness that no one has ever completed. They talk about how cool it would be to be the first ones to finish it, and decide to give it a go the next day. While they're discussing it, Satsuki calls Haruto and gives him a ring as a gift to return a previous favor. Clive and the other girls tease her for blushing, but Satsuki turns away, saying it's nothing like that. After that, they all raise their fists and cheer to their friendship, saying they'll grow and become legends together. The next day, the gang goes out to gear up for the quest. While doing so, Satsuki notices that Haruto and Asahi are missing, so Lil Sis starts panicking because she's down bad for Haruto. When she finally finds them, she sees them blushing and exchanging symbolic team rings like a couple. Seeing this, the poor wizard runs off like a heartbroken sissy character, knowing she just got sidelined in her own love story. After that, the quest kicks off. Haruto and his squad roll into the dungeon and wipe the floor with the mobs like absolute pros thanks to Asahi's busted prophet art. Haruto starts simping for her power, saying they'd be toast without it and any team would be lucky to have someone like her. Asahi gives him that wholesome anime girl smile and says she only wants to use her power for them. They make it to the final boss room and the ground starts shaking like it's about to drop the hardest bass of 2025. The doors creak open and out walks this massive knight called Purgatorio with glowing green eyes and a whole arsenal of swords floating behind him like he's overcompensating for something like a pathetic gooner with an ugly face. Haruto whips out his sword, ready for smoke. Asahi's future vision kicks in and she calls out that the monster's about to swing from the front. Haruto and Takanori dip, dodging that massive blade by a hair, and Haruto tells him to handle the boss's weapon. The knight slams the ground and blasts them with an explosion, but Takanori charges through like a Giga Chad and uses his ability called the Breaker to smash its weapons to pieces, while Asahi backs him up with gunfire. But it's no use as Asahi shouts that the stupid thing just regenerates its gear like it's got unlimited V-Bucks. Realizing things are about to go south, Satsuki steps up and tells Clive to match her element while she blasts the boss with elemental magic. Meanwhile, Haruto turns to Nozomi and tells her to summon a bird so he can pull off some aerial Giga Chad move and attack from above. Nozomi starts casting, Clive hurls his knives at the boss's legs and uses his ability to turn them into lead, locking it down. Haruto charges in, flexing his lion claw ability that can apparently cut through anything, even though Takanori's in the back screaming at him not to do it. But of course, everything goes to hell as all those floating swords start spinning and lock onto Nozomi. Haruto doesn't even think. He rushes in to save her, takes the hit like an absolute meat shield, and his ring slips off, clattering to the floor. Purgatorio charges up this massive deadly shot and aims it right at him. Asahi doesn't hesitate. She jumps in front of Haruto, takes the hit, and sacrifices herself to save her hero. The game logs her out forever, and in the real world, Asahi's heart gives out too. She dies for real, leaving the squad in shock, but Takanori's the one who breaks down the hardest because he low-key loved her. Later, at Asahi's funeral, the gang shows up except Clive, who's overseas, and Haruto, who's too wrecked with guilt to even show his face. But when he finally crosses paths with Takanori, his old friend doesn't hold back and shoves him to the ground, calling him a pathetic little gooner and blaming him for everything with his broken little bird brain heart. 6 years fly by and Haruto's ride-or-die gamer delinquency fades into nothing. One day, his buddy hits him up and somehow convinces this washed-up loser to log into Reunion, the rebooted version of Union. Haruto's like nah at first, but eventually gives in and hops back into the game like the nostalgic cucked fish face he is. At first, it's all normal vibes as they stroll towards some dungeon quest. But mid-banter, Haruto starts feeling weird, realizing this is literally their first ever quest. The guy says his sense is shifting, the girl flexes that hers is magic, and Haruto drops that he's rocking fighter like the Giga Chad he used to be. Then boom. Out of nowhere, 2 monsters spawn in and catch the squad slipping. While the others start panicking like noobs, Haruto solo clutches the entire fight. His sword's moving like muscle memory, cutting through those mobs like he's been doing this his whole life. His teammates ask if he's not scared, but he's just like, bro, I'm a fighter, fear's not part of the build. Loki though, he's thinking this fight would have been light work for his old self. And just when they think they're done, the dungeon glitches into some next level secret zone. The walls glow blue, a treasure chest appears dead center, and the squad's like, go on, Haruto, open it up. So he does, and out of nowhere, a soft light beams out and Asahi straight up floats out of the chest like she's just waking up from a nap. Haruto's frozen. She stretches, yawns, and casually calls his name like nothing happened. Haruto stands frozen, staring at Asahi, trying to make sense of what's in front of him. He demands answers, convinced she has to be an imposter. Asahi looks confused, saying they were just playing the day before, and even talks about a recent pool party. When Haruto asks what year she thinks it is, she says 2034 without hesitation. But the second she opens her in-game menu and sees the date 2040, the shock hits her hard. Before the crowd of clueless dweebs can close in, Haruto grabs her arm and pulls her away to figure out what's going on. Asahi tries to log out, thinking it's some kind of glitch, but nothing happens. She contacts the operator, only for the system to hit her with a message that her account doesn't even exist. Panic sets in, and she turns to Haruto asking where Subaru is. Haruto pauses before telling her that he doesn't know, and that everything's changed in the past 6 years. When she keeps asking, he finally shouts that she died 6 years ago. Asahi shakes her head, laughing in disbelief, saying that can't be true when she's standing right there. That's when their old foe from back in Union, Linovich, shows up with that same smug bootleg villain face he had back then, praising Asahi's prophet art and trying to convince her to join him. Asahi refuses, saying she's with Subaru, only for Haruto to tell her that Subaru doesn't exist anymore. She won't believe it, and before they can react, Linovich's guards surround them like a bunch of wannabe tough guys. Asahi tells Haruto to handle him like always, but Linovich lands a heavy punch that knocks Haruto to the ground. While Haruto's down, Linovich mocks him, calling him a washed-up chump who's nothing now without his sense. Haruto pushes himself back up, but Linovich threatens Asahi, telling her to either join his clan or watch Haruto die right in front of her. Haruto pulls out his sword and dodges Linovich's kick, teaming up with Asahi as she activates her prophet art and tells him to duck. The combo forces Linovich to back off. Seeing her use the ability, Linovich recognizes it and says he's seen that prophet art before. Then he swears he'll make them suffer and return the grief they caused him 100-fold. That makes Haruto start to doubt if she's really the Asahi he once knew, and he shouts at her to run. But Asahi refuses, standing her ground and reminding him they made a promise to protect each other, and she's not breaking it. Linovich demands they join him, but they both say no. Enraged, he's about to strike again until Takanori shows up with his guild Illuminati, arriving in style and flexing his divinity power. He steps right up to Linovich, who throws a punch in frustration like some angry potato with arms, but Takanori catches it easily with one hand and uses the breaker to rip through his clothes and shut him down. Humiliated, Linovich backs off with a warning that Takanori will pay for this later. Once Linovich is gone, Takanori wastes no time slipping back into his usual main character act, mocking Haruto for being weak and losing his edge. Then he turns to Asahi and says that even though he had his doubts, he's glad to see her again. As Haruto and Asahi start to explain what happened, Takanori cuts them off, saying he'll take care of it. Asahi steps in and begs them to stop fighting, saying she's not going anywhere without Haruto. Takanori turns away, saying Asahi will soon see for herself how powerless Haruto really is, then teleports out without another word. Asahi tries to remind Haruto about their old promise, but he tells her that everything, including that promise, ended 6 years ago when they failed the quest. After the dust settles, Haruto finally accepts that Subaru is gone, but Asahi refuses to let it go and insists they rebuild it, because Subaru is where they all truly belong. Later, in real life, Satsuki shows up out of nowhere at Haruto's place. He lets her in when she says she just stopped by to ask something. As they sit in his room, Haruto thanks her for always standing up for him when they were kids. Satsuki brushes it off, saying that in the end, everyone understood anyway. Then, almost like it's no big deal, she drops the bomb that she saw him near the inn in Reunion the other day. Haruto is stunned to find out Satsuki also plays Reunion. He opens up and admits he left Asahi at the inn and doesn't plan on going back. Satsuki looks disappointed and tells him that doesn't sound like him at all. Haruto finally admits he's been thinking of quitting the game for good, deleting his ID, and erasing the memories so he can cut it all off. But Satsuki hits him with the truth and reminds him that he can't keep running from the past forever. Before Haruto can even say anything back, she rushes out, leaving him alone with the weight of her words. Back in the game, Haruto, Asahi, and Satsuki meet on a bridge and Satsuki is stunned to see Asahi standing there, looking so real it's hard to believe. Asahi, as cheerful as ever, says it doesn't even feel like 6 years have passed when Satsuki brings up the fact that Asahi died. Asahi tries to brush it off and keep the mood light, but Satsuki presses on and asks about Asahi's last memory. Asahi says it was saving Haruto. That's when Satsuki tells her the truth, that Asahi died in real life too, and that she was there at the funeral. She explains that Asahi can't log out because there's no one left to return to. Asahi looks hurt and accuses Satsuki of being mean, but Satsuki, holding back tears, admits she's just scared. She visits Asahi's grave every year, and the idea of losing her again to what could just be data or a glitch is too much to take. Asahi tries to convince Satsuki that she's real when out of nowhere, Haruto senses an arrow flying at them and blocks it. Enemies surround them from all sides, all after Asahi's prophet art like it's up for grabs. The trio goes on full alert, ready for a fight. Before Haruto or Asahi can make a move, Satsuki steps up like it's her moment to shine. She summons her elemental magic and grips her whip, telling Asahi there are always guys like this. Then she warns the enemies, voice full of that old Subaru fire, and they freeze the second they realize who she is. She's the legendary queen of elementals, and they know it. Satsuki doesn't waste time. With a flash of her power, she wipes them out, blasting them straight out of the game, and the trio heads back to their base. Elsewhere, a mysterious woman stands with her team as they report the incident that just went down. She confirms that Satsuki has joined up with Asahi and Haruto and orders her soldiers to form a search party to capture Asahi at all costs. But just as things are about to turn ugly, Takanori rolls in like a protective lover with anger issues and tells her to back off. He surrounds her with his guards and warns her about what'll happen if she tries to harm Asahi. Seeing she's outmatched for now, she backs down, promising not to lay a finger on Asahi. As she retreats, Takanori starts wondering why this information is spreading so fast. Back at the base, Asahi notices all her items are gone, while Haruto finds the old ring Satsuki gave him. Asahi picks something up off the ground but hides it from Satsuki like it's some top-secret treasure. Meanwhile, Haruto wanders off to a pond to do some classic brooding. That's when he hears a girl's voice greeting him and turns, surprised. A woman rises from the water and introduces herself as Alicia. Before he can react, she uses her empath sense to read his thoughts and calms him down, explaining she isn't an enemy. She tells him empath is different from prophet art because it can connect with more than just people. Then she drops the bomb that Asahi's sense is unique, not one of the 6 known senses of their world, and that others are after her to awaken it. Before vanishing, she tells Haruto to protect Asahi and stop running from his past. Haruto wonders who the mystery girl was but snaps out of it when he hears a voice calling him back. At the base, Satsuki tells Asahi to stop confusing Haruto by showing up like this, but Asahi fires back saying she's not some bug or ghost. Satsuki claps back that Asahi's just leftover data now, can't even use her powers without a real body. That hits Asahi hard, and she starts wondering how Satsuki even cared about her back then. Satsuki keeps it real, saying things aren't the same anymore and points out that Haruto's the one who's changed the most, losing himself after that day. She asks Asahi to stop bothering him and reminds her she's technically dead. Asahi isn't having it though. She says she used her prophet art just yesterday and throws it back at Satsuki for doing nothing while Haruto turned into an emotionless brick. Their argument heats up until Haruto cuts in, says he's not who he used to be, and tells them both to leave him alone as he logs out like an emo crybaby. Next day, Satsuki shows up at Haruto's place and apologizes for all the drama. She admits she was harsh on Asahi out of rivalry, saying they'd still be butting heads if Asahi were alive. She remembers Asahi's win and disappearance, but now swears to beat her even if it's just in game, leaving Haruto confused. Then she pulls out their shared ring, jogging his memory about a promise he made to Asahi. Later, at Asahi's grave, Haruto digs up another ring meant for a promise that never got fulfilled. When Satsuki asks if that was it, he says no, it was something else. They agree to help Asahi in reunion, and as they leave, Satsuki spots fresh gerbera flowers at the grave, realizing Takanori was there, probably lurking somewhere, still watching like some edgy guardian. Back in reunion, Haruto chops away at the branches of some tree monster and calls out to Asahi as it chases him down. Asahi pulls up with her gun, finishes it off, but gets salty when she doesn't score that rare magic tree sap drop. Haruto points out how rare it actually is and asks why she's suddenly so hyped for it. He casually mentions Satsuki will be an hour late anyway, so they might as well keep going. But before they can chill, another monster sneak attacks Asahi from behind, and the two start running for their lives. Haruto tells her not to overdo it and to actually watch her back for once, but the tree monster grabs her and yeets her off a cliff. Haruto tries to charge in like a hero, but Asahi manages to shoot the thing mid-fall, lands in the water like she's starring in an anime Fast and Furious spin-off, and clutches that rare drop like a champ. When Haruto catches up, Asahi's just standing there naked on a rock, flexing the magic sap like she's posing for some RPG ad. She's completely unfazed and teases him for being shy, saying they used to bathe together anyway. The moment other players start showing up, Haruto panics and basically becomes her human towel, trying to cover her up. After the group finally dips, he turns away all flustered, but Asahi jumps on his back playfully, sending both of them crashing into the water. Floating there, she admits she wants to see her parents again and tried logging out so many times but nothing worked. Haruto just hugs her tight and tells her to stop forcing that fake smile when it's just them. At home, Satsuki looks through childhood photos and remembers when Haruto nearly got a game over saving her from a monster that stunned her, telling her back then that it was his duty to protect her. Later in reunion, Asahi trades the rare magic sap to a blacksmith and gets their old party ring remade. She tries to hand the ring to Haruto, but instead, this clueless guy just slips it onto her finger without thinking. When the trio meets up, Satsuki asks why they're late and Asahi explains that they visited the blacksmith to remake their old party ring using a blueprint she found. The moment Satsuki hears that Haruto already put the ring on Asahi's hand, she storms off and soon comes back holding the exact same ring, clearly expecting Haruto to put it on her finger too, but the guy completely misses the moment like he's farming side quests instead of noticing what's in front of him. After that, they head to the Mysteries of Darkness dungeon to help Asahi recover her lost memories. On the way, Asahi brings up calling the other Subaru members, but Satsuki reminds her that they don't know where Clive and Nozomi are anymore since things have changed a lot since back then. As they move forward, they sense someone's presence nearby when out of nowhere Haruto spots Alicia in the distance, casually opening a portal like it is just another Tuesday. She steps in and out walks Purgatorio, the same terrifying boss monster from Union, only now with red eyes instead of green like he went full Super Saiyan menace mode. The team tries to escape, but he blocks the exit by chucking his blades and forcing them into a fight. With no option left, Asahi says they have to fight and hypes them up to win, but Satsuki quickly reminds her that she cannot see the future anymore. Suddenly, the monster starts chucking swords at them like a blender on max speed and Haruto genuinely starts worrying about getting that permanent game over. Asahi stays positive saying Haruto will not lose while Satsuki tells them to throw everything they have. She blasts every element in her magical arsenal at Purgatorio, but his magical barrier shrugs it off like it is nothing and her attacks drop like wet spaghetti on the floor. Purgatorio then fuses all his swords into one massive weapon and fires an attack that messes up Satsuki's leg. When Haruto tries to help, he gets blasted away like Team Rocket getting sent to the moon and Purgatorio closes in on him. Just as things are about to go full disaster, Asahi jumps in, refusing to back down because she wants to keep her promise. She keeps shooting at Purgatorio, drawing him in. Then, just as Purgatorio steps forward for the attack, she pulls off a clutch move by breaking the roof above him and sending him crashing down. It works but stuns her in the process. Haruto, barely able to move, spots the old party ring from 6 years ago lying beside him. Reaching for it, he remembers the promise he made to Asahi that they would always protect each other. That memory sparks something in him and gives him the strength to rise and face the monster again. As Purgatorio goes in for the kill, Haruto powers up, slices off his hand, and unleashes his special move, using his sense to finally finish the monster. Just then, Asahi regains her prophet art and shows Satsuki and Haruto a vision of the statue behind him preparing to attack. But before she can even warn him, Haruto says he already knows and cuts it down like a boss. After the battle, Asahi hugs Haruto tightly, while Satsuki points out that he got his sense back at last. She also mentions how Asahi shared the future vision directly into their minds, seeing it for the first time herself. Asahi smiles and says she did it to help them. Then Satsuki finally admits that seeing Asahi use the prophet art again proves she really is alive and promises to help her log out. Together, the three make a promise to save Asahi and officially bring Subaru back. After escaping the dungeon, the group finally breathes easy, relieved that Haruto is back to normal. Asahi, full of hope, suggests they start reuniting Subaru, but Satsuki reminds her they still don't know what happened to Clive and Nozomi. Out of nowhere, a red gem falls from Asahi's collar. Satsuki picks it up, thinking it's some kind of reward, but the moment she touches it, Asahi suddenly faints. What follows is a strange vision showing Subaru, scientists, Alicia, and some high-tech modern facility. Satsuki wonders if it's Asahi's prophet art acting up, but Asahi, waking up confused, thinks it's tied to what happened during the missing 6 years. On the way to the inn, Asahi looks troubled, but Haruto reassures her with that quiet determination while Satsuki watches them closely. At the inn, they notice players whispering and gossiping about them. In Asahi's room, Satsuki uses her flower elemental to confirm that rumors of their victory are already spreading, which makes Haruto suspect someone is leaking information. They start discussing the facility from the vision, realizing it doesn't fit in the game world, and Asahi says reuniting Subaru is their best chance at figuring all of this out. Satsuki then leads them to find an informant, explaining how her elementals work like magical spy drones to gather intel. Haruto's actually impressed, but before they can get far, they run into players fleeing in a panic, warning that the Southern Cross Guild is coming. The name stirs up some old memories for Haruto, and Satsuki points out that top guilds like Southern Cross and Takanori's Illuminati are still active. They try to avoid trouble by taking a detour, but it's no use as Southern Cross members surround them in no time. The leader of Southern Cross, Litos, demands they hand over Asahi, but obviously the group refuses. He smirks and reveals they're surrounded. Satsuki suggests escaping through the sky, but a barrage of arrows shuts that plan down real quick. Haruto steps up and says they can fight their way out, but Litos just laughs and mocks Subaru as nothing more than a washed-up legend, flexing about his army of over 1,000. Just when things are looking grim, the Brill Society rolls in, led by Angelus. He greets Litos, saying he's only here to talk to the trio. Outnumbered now, Litos decides to back off, leaving them safe for the moment. Once Litos retreats, Angelus introduces himself as the second leader of Brill Society. He makes it clear he doesn't share his predecessor's grudge against Subaru. Offering them protection, he explains that Asahi's existence is shaking the world's balance and will definitely attract all the wrong kinds of attention. He claims he's not chasing power, just trying to maintain order, and warns that others won't be so polite about going after Asahi's abilities. Right on cue, Asahi wakes up, all dramatic timing, and firmly refuses his offer, saying they're Subaru and they won't be tied down by any guild. Angelus stays chill, but before leaving, he warns her that she's like a joker card in this world, and if she ends up threatening the balance, he won't hesitate to stop her. Meanwhile, Alicia watches everything from above, like she's binging her favorite soap opera. Elsewhere, we see Takanori ordering his guild to keep tabs on Southern Cross and Brill Society. Staring out through some glass panel, he vows no one's going to lay a hand on his Asahi. The next day in real life, Satsuki waits for Haruto, who shows up late and takes her to a game store. She's clearly annoyed but agrees to grab lunch after he offers to pay. As payback, she drags him to a fancy restaurant. During lunch, Haruto shares that he couldn't get in touch with Clive, while Satsuki says her messages are going through, but Clive just hasn't replied yet. She points out that they can't do much anyway since Clive lives abroad and Nozomi changed schools. Later, Haruto admits he's worried about Asahi feeling lonely, which makes Satsuki jealous and upset. When Haruto says they can't exactly go tell the police that a supposedly dead girl is alive in a game, Satsuki accuses him of wanting to keep Asahi all to himself and storms off, leaving him standing there. The next day in reunion, Haruto visits Asahi's room where Satsuki is already waiting. As they discuss what to do next, Haruto suggests they investigate the vision and Asahi admits she feels like it's tied to the 6 years she lost. When they bring up the strange building from the vision, Haruto remembers the Tower of Heaven where Asahi first activated her prophet art. Since Asahi says something felt off back then, they decide to check it out. When they reach the tower, everything looks just like they remember. Inside, they run into a giant two-headed eagle. Haruto attacks from above with his sword while Asahi backs him up with her gun. After a surprisingly easy fight, the eagle retreats and they move deeper into the tower. As they climb the Tower of Heaven, Asahi recalls how Satsuki had first activated her elemental powers when they entered the cave all those years ago. Satsuki admits her powers were strong back then, but she didn't really have control over them. While they talk, Satsuki flashes back to the moment Haruto saved her from monsters, matching a scene she saw in those old childhood photos. Nearing the top, Haruto notices her acting strange and asks about it, but she brushes him off and they head into the boss room. As soon as they're detected, the boss kicks into annihilation mode and launches its attack. Asahi lands a shot that damages one arm, Haruto slices off the other, and Satsuki burns the thing with her fire elemental, finishing the first round clean. When fog starts rolling in, Asahi warns them it was dangerous last time, but Haruto says Satsuki's light elemental should be able to handle it now. Just then, a roper grabs Satsuki's leg, and Asahi takes the chance to shoot the boss, clearing the fog. Seeing Satsuki down, Haruto charges in and finishes the boss with a brutal strike. After the fight, Asahi proudly points out they managed to win without needing her prophet art. Haruto, still worried, comments about Satsuki getting caught by that roper. She gets irritated for a second, but quickly apologizes and blames herself for being careless. On the tower's terrace, Asahi lights up at the view while Haruto asks if she remembers anything, but she shakes her head. Just as they're about to teleport out, Asahi spots another red gem sitting in her inventory. It looks different from the first one. As a vision starts forming, Takanori suddenly appears, snatches the gem from her, and tells her not to look at it. He says his divinity sense picked up danger and reminds her that she fainted the last time this happened. When Haruto questions how Takanori even knows that, Takanori smugly says high guilds get access to that kind of intel. Takanori then turns on Haruto, accusing him of putting Asahi at risk and saying she shouldn't be left in his care. He declares that he's arranged proper protection for her in reunion and without waiting, uses his power called the Solitude to teleport both of them to a private battlefield for a one-on-one fight. As the fight begins, Takanori punches Haruto, explaining his divinity sense nullifies the fighting sense and confirms Asahi is real, but unable to log out. He vows to stay by her side forever to fulfill his promise. Haruto calls him insane for wanting to stay logged in, saying Asahi cares more about reuniting Subaru than escaping. Takanori insists only he can protect her, but Haruto argues they should focus on what makes her happy. When Haruto brings up the vision from when Asahi fainted, Takanori dismisses it and tells him never to return. Their fists clash again and Takanori uses Disappear, returning them to the original area. Satsuki urges Takanori to stop, admitting she didn't expect the gems to be this hard to destroy and acknowledging his strength. Asahi points her gun at him, warning him not to hurt Haruto, but his guild members step in, assuring her Takanori cares. Takanori reminds Satsuki they were once partners in crime before turning to leave. When Asahi asks about Clive and Nozomi, he says he hasn't seen them and that things can't go back. The group returns to the inn and Satsuki logs off. At his base, Takanori tells his assistant he wants Asahi herself, not just her prophet art. He warns that Litos and Angelus seek power, while Gnosis and Hyades might contact the operators. He considers forming a pact with Brill Society and Southern Cross to counter bigger guilds. Just then, a member reports Litos and Angelus have arrived as Takanori vows to awaken Asahi. That night, Satsuki dreams of him calling them partners in crime. The next day in reunion, Asahi and Haruto realize Satsuki is late. They search for Nozomi and Clive on the Naiachi's continent, but find nothing. Taking a break at a hot spring, they plan to explore other continents. Asahi brings up getting Haruto a better weapon since he misses his old sword Pleiades. Just then, Haruto gets a message and they head back. Satsuki soon joins, admits she had a bad dream, and they head toward another teleporter, but thick fog begins to surround them. As the fog sets in, Satsuki senses it's a magic trap involving over 100 people. Haruto's fighting sense picks up nothing since the enemies are cloaked, but Satsuki detects an empath sense. The group is separated. Satsuki runs into Angelus, who says she's not their target. Haruto meets Litos, who reveals Brill Society helped them hide. Haruto is stunned when Litos explains Brill Society, Southern Cross, and Illuminati have allied, and that Asahi is now surrounded by Illuminati and Satsuki by Brill Society. He can't believe Takanori went this far. Meanwhile, Satsuki confronts Angelus about the empath sense. Instead of answering, he hands her a message card from Takanori. The card reveals Takanori used his magical Houdini act to separate them and create the fog. Angelus admits the fog wouldn't have been possible without him. In the message, Takanori suggests Satsuki's life would be easier without Asahi, recalling her reunion with Haruto and urging her to return to the real world while he stays behind with Asahi. Satsuki pauses for a moment but refuses to give up. She's not about to lose to Asahi, Takanori, or anyone else. Suddenly, chaos erupts as weapons rain down and Angelus takes a surprise knife to the hand. Satsuki unleashes her elemental powers, tearing through the guild like a magical storm. But seeing Angelus wounded, she realizes something is off and rushes to find Asahi. Meanwhile, Haruto charges Litos with his sword. Litos blocks him easily and admits Haruto can't win in a one-on-one, though he could with allies. He offers Haruto one last chance to join Divine. Haruto refuses and attacks, but Litos kicks him aside and orders his men to fire. Haruto recovers fast and rushes through the arrows. Just then, Alicia appears, firing a special arrow that disables Litos' sense with her empath ability, Ideal Fall. She urges Haruto to run as Litos commands his men. Alicia uses Mortar Arrow and Ideal Fall Divide to block their senses too, helping Haruto break through toward Asahi. Meanwhile, Asahi angrily demands to know why Takanori did all this when she only wanted to rebuild Subaru. Takanori says too much has changed over 6 years, but Asahi, who hasn't lived that time, insists she just wants things as they were. Takanori, desperate, traps her in a diamond-shaped cage and knocks her out, vowing to end the misunderstanding his way. After Asahi collapses, Takanori's followers pick her up. He orders them to stop, but they ignore him and one warns they'll self-destruct if he interferes. Takanori quickly realizes Angelus used his empath ability in the fog to control intermediate players like his followers, sparing advanced players like Haruto, Asahi, and Satsuki. He dispels the control from some and commands them to stop the others without harm. Despite this, Asahi is taken away using a smoke bomb and a bird. Meanwhile, Angelus and Litos go live, announcing Southern Cross and Brill Society have merged into one guild called Divine. They claim to now possess the prophet art and invite everyone to join them. Back at the inn, Satsuki and Haruto realize Takanori was betrayed, and that Divine is after Asahi's power. Haruto insists on going alone to save her, despite Satsuki's worries about facing 3,000 players. He tells her to back him up only if he fails. Haruto then heads straight for the Divine Guild's castle, spots their massive army, and charges in without a second thought. Back at the inn, Satsuki recalls battling a powerful boss with Asahi and flying drones. She overused her powers and was left with only one elemental. Just as the boss attacked, Haruto leapt in and saved her. During the fight, the boss vanished into the fog with mist shift. Asahi took charge, guiding everyone with precision. With perfect teamwork, Haruto landed the final blow and secured victory. Afterwards, Asahi revealed she'd been seeing future visions, and the group suggested her empath powers were awakening. Satsuki stood apart in tears, struggling with feeling unseen. Asahi comforted Satsuki, who accused her of reading her heart, but Asahi said it was empathy. She admitted feeling jealous of Satsuki fighting beside Haruto and being praised by him. Asahi believed her powers awakened from wanting to help Haruto and encouraged Satsuki to work together until they were ready to confess to him. The memory ends as Satsuki tells Takanori that Haruto has gone alone to rescue Asahi. Takanori, restrained by Divine's power, mutters that Haruto dying might be convenient, making Satsuki question if he only wants Asahi for himself. He admits it, referencing an emotional message he once sent, but Satsuki insists she'll support Haruto to the end. Meanwhile, Haruto takes a major hit in battle. Back at the office, Takanori tells Satsuki that if Haruto dies, she'll have Haruto to herself since Asahi doesn't exist in the real world. Satsuki rejects that, saying Asahi is her friend from before either of them mattered, and life wouldn't feel right without both of them. At this moment, Haruto rises from a crater, ready to keep fighting. Satsuki tells Takanori that love is pointless without mutual care and says she can't win against someone who no longer exists. When Takanori questions her stance on Asahi, she brushes him off and heads out alone to help Haruto survive. On the battlefield, Haruto goes full Super Saiyan and tears through the Divine Army, wiping out half of them solo. When a member tries talking him down, claiming they want peace through Asahi's power, Haruto refuses to believe it. He's trapped mid-air by dragon bind chains that drain his fighting sense. As he spots Asahi atop the castle, enemies move to finish him until red arrows infused with magic and divinity break the chains. Takanori and Satsuki arrive just in time, with Takanori saying he's only there to save Asahi. The trio fights through the remaining 1,500 members, unleashing a massive wave attack that wipes out nearby guards, then battles through the rest using their senses. They break down the castle door, and inside Satsuki notices the jewel-lined area weakens strong elemental powers. Litos appears, mocking their alliance, and points to Angelus holding Asahi. Takanori charges, but Angelus counters with the rain function, attacking from all directions. Haruto realizes Angelus is using Asahi's prophet art to read the future, not Takanori's mind. Angelus traps Takanori in unbreakable glowing red ropes, confirming Haruto's suspicion. When Takanori demands to know if he's controlling Asahi's consciousness, Angelus shamelessly says yes. Angelus explains that the ropes cancel divinity and the jewel-lined walls block elementals, all part of their plan to erase Subaru's legacy. Litos fights Haruto, easily countering him thanks to Asahi's prophet art predicting every move like he's reading the final boss script. Satsuki sees Haruto weakening and tries to wake Asahi, but Angelus claims she's under control. His followers raise a glowing red lantern and strike Satsuki down with ice spikes. Remembering Asahi's words and her own jealousy, Satsuki rises, fueled by her promise. She activates her ring, levitates, and summons the Elemental Kings, who merge into a rainbow compass. Satsuki unleashes the Phalanx, creating a vortex that wipes out the enemies except for Litos and Angelus. With the enemies gone, Takanori is freed. Litos panics and asks Angelus what to do. Angelus summons a purple lightning ball made from the fear and rage of 3,000 defeated players and injects it into Litos. Litos screams and transforms into a monstrous version of himself with glowing red eyes and Dracula-like teeth. Litos slams his axe, causing a mini earthquake that knocks down Haruto and Takanori, then charges at them like an unstoppable beast. Satsuki realizes Asahi has awakened when she stands and shouts about changing the future. Red gems appear before each of them, and a voice tells them these are powers they built over 6 years. Each sees a vision, but Satsuki urges them to stop overthinking and act as Haruto gives the signal to get ready. Just then, Takanori uses his ability Solitude Zero to open a doorway to another world while Satsuki powers up Haruto. Haruto launches at Litos at full speed, striking from every direction and finally taking him down for good. As Angelus watches in shock, Haruto explains Estrella, Subaru's special move where Satsuki bends space, Takanori controls time, and Haruto cuts through dimensions. Satsuki rushes to Asahi, who thanks her. Angelus, now surrounded, pleads for mercy, but gets a punch to the head from Takanori for manipulating Asahi and is finished off when Satsuki burns him to ashes. Afterwards, Takanori hands the red stones to Asahi, asking if she really needs them. She promises she won't faint this time and activates them, showing everyone a vision of 3 scientists discussing a failed experiment and saying it's too early to see the future. When Takanori asks what it means, no one has the answer. Asahi notices the Subaru ring on Takanori's necklace and invites him to rejoin them. But he refuses, saying someone who avoids facing things, looking at Haruto, doesn't deserve to stand by her. He tells Haruto they're still not friends and warns him not to die before he kills him, then walks away. Asahi calls him stubborn and thanks Satsuki, who replies that of course she would help her as a friend and teases that they're still rivals. Later, Asahi, Satsuki, and Haruto play by the sea while waiting for Awada to take them to the Lost Pentagon on her ship. On board, Haruto shares that he is searching for an unbreakable sword said to be stuck at the bottom of the sea. Awada confirms the legend and warns that most players fail before even reaching it. When they arrive, the area is lifeless with no wind, waves, or fish. The trio sets off in a small boat as Awada warns them again of the danger, but Haruto assures her they will handle it. Underwater, they struggle with a time limit and the huge search area, but by following Asahi's instincts, they eventually spot the sword. Haruto quickly realizes the sword is his own from the Union Pleiades. Satsuki doubts it, but his fighting sense confirms it. As he tries to pull it free, an earthquake shakes the seafloor and a giant dragon named Aegir, the king of the Dead Sea, rises with the sword stuck in its head. Aegir attacks, creating a massive underwater explosion. Haruto steps forward to fight but is knocked out. Asahi distracts the dragon with her gun, but is nearly eaten until Clive appears and saves her with a perfectly aimed knife. Satsuki grabs Asahi as Clive strikes the dragon's glowing red eyes with his blades, giving the group a chance to escape to the ship. On board, they realize Clive is missing but find a letter saying he had to leave and will see them again. They smile, knowing it is just like Clive to act quietly on his own terms. Then we see a childhood memory where the 6 members of Subaru are trapped in a room while angry guilds gather outside, furious that Subaru defeated a boss before they could. Nozomi suggests they apologize, but Takanori insists they did nothing wrong. Suddenly, Clive announces he is leaving Subaru, convinced they cannot fight all the united guilds, and that surrendering is safer to avoid anyone getting hurt. Everyone is shocked and disapproves of his reaction, but Clive walks out, adding a dramatic mic drop that he has always wanted to fight against Subaru at least once. In the real world, Takanori invites Haruto and Satsuki to his father's restaurant for lunch and a serious talk. He brings up the strange events that have happened since Asahi's return, and Satsuki mentions how fast the rumors are spreading. Takanori reveals that the secretive guild Gnosis is behind it, which Haruto confirms. He explains Gnosis's dark influence and mentions that a group that tried to expose them vanished from both reunion and real life. They discuss how various guilds are after Asahi for her powers or fame, and how Gnosis's manipulation caused Southern Cross and Brill Society to betray him and form Divine. Takanori urges them not to tell Asahi to avoid stressing her. Satsuki shares that they met Clive and found the sword Pleiades, which is strange since old items like that should not exist anymore, but Haruto insists it was his. Takanori concludes that the red stone might be the key to everything and suggests that Asahi's real body could still exist based on the vision they saw. Suddenly, Takanori's secretary strolls in like he is holding the juiciest gossip, announcing that he has found Nozomi Kusaka and she is back in the city. Haruto and Satsuki both blink in surprise and ask why Takanori was even looking for Nozomi, considering he has been the #1 hater of getting Subaru back together. Takanori tries to act cool and just shrugs, saying it was because of Asahi's wish. Back in the game, Asahi, Haruto, Satsuki, and Alwada return to the sea to search for the sword, but have no luck. Just as they are about to give up, Clive appears to Asahi's joy. He avoids explaining where he has been, saying it is a long story and offers to help. He reveals he was also tracking Aegir and met them by chance, then throws a skull into the sea to stop enemy spawns. The group dives in again, this time protected by a barrier made from Clive's shapeshifting and Satsuki's magic, just like old times. Suddenly, the dragon appears, and they all get ready with their senses. Haruto begins the attack while Clive hurls his knives and Asahi fires toward the dragon, creating a red trap that Clive uses to bring Aegir to the surface. Satsuki then freezes the water, leaving the dragon helplessly trapped. Haruto climbs to the top of its head and tries to pull the sword out. Just then, Asahi sees a future vision where Clive has stabbed Haruto in the back, and he is falling down bleeding. Later, in a flashback from Union, the Subaru team hides behind a rocky hill as angry guilds search for them, furious that Subaru stole a boss. Satsuki wants to fight, but Takanori stops her, saying the enemies are too strong. Suddenly, knives rain down and Clive appears, revealing he has found them. In reality, Haruto wakes up in a hospital bed after 6 years and is embraced by Asahi, who tells him he has been unconscious all this time. Haruto is confused, remembering Asahi taking an attack for him, but she says it was actually him who protected Nozomi. Soon, Satsuki and Takanori arrive, and when Haruto asks about reunion, they act like they have no memory of it. That night, Haruto starts doubting everything, wondering if it was all a dream, until Alicia appears. Alicia explains this world was created by Asahi's prophet art, which isn't just a power to predict the future, but to choose one possibility among infinite paths. She tells him the senses from Union can be used in reality, and that Union was never just a game but a training ground and lab created by Gnosis to awaken the ultimate ability, the prophet art. By putting Asahi under psychological stress, Gnosis succeeded in awakening her power, and she used it to create this reality to save Haruto. Alicia reveals Haruto is the singularity point and vanishes, unable to stay longer. The next morning at the hospital, Asahi visits Haruto and shares updates about their friends, mentioning Clive might join them for studies and they are planning a reunion with Nozomi too. Though Haruto seems distant, he says he's glad everyone is doing well. Asahi shows him her Subaru team ring, reminding him their bond lasts beyond the game. She extends her hand, recalling how they exchanged rings in-game, but not in real life. Hearing this, Haruto remembers their vow to protect each other and realizes Asahi brought him to this world to keep that promise. Feeling he doesn't belong here, he promises not to make her sad again and decides to return to the other world to restore Subaru's true bond. Asahi, though confused, accepts the ring he gives her and says she believes in him. Haruto departs. Back in the other world, Haruto returns to the moment he was pulling the sword from Ager's head. This time, he knocks out Clive and they both crash to the surface. Satsuki demands an explanation, but Clive claims 6 years changed him, and he's now Subaru's enemy. Haruto sees through him, saying the real Clive would never betray Subaru, and that someone is just copying his appearance and voice. He attacks, and after the imposter blocks, lands a punch that sends him flying. Haruto reveals Clive once said shapeshifters can't hide from the fighting sense, exposing the imposter as Simon, the sixth holochaos of Gnosis. Simon admits he didn't expect Haruto to return. As the trio prepares to fight, the dragon breaks free and knocks Haruto flying like a ragdoll. Then Simon, the sixth holochaos, merges with Ager and launches a brutal assault, forcing the team to struggle just to stay on their feet. Ager fires nail missiles that overwhelm Satsuki's elemental defenses and captures her, threatening her life to awaken Asahi's powers. As Asahi is about to give in, a surprise knife strike frees Satsuki. It is Clive, disguised as Awada, revealing his true self and shocking everyone as they regroup to fight. Ager then unleashes a massive attack called the Tall Hammer that seems to take out Satsuki and Clive, while Haruto somehow endures it and shields Asahi, refusing to surrender. Suddenly, Satsuki and Clive reappear, having escaped using Satsuki's wind elemental and Clive's ability to turn them into lightning. Together, the team launches a final coordinated strike. Asahi takes support on Haruto's hand and leaps toward Ager's mouth, triggering Satsuki's light bomb, defeating the dragon. Haruto reaches for Pleiades, but as Ager rises again, Haruto beats it down, declares the sword belongs to Subaru, and as the jewel on it glows, signals the others to release their powers. All the jewels shine at once as Haruto finally reclaims his sword. We see a memory where 5 Subaru members are nearly defeated, but Clive appears, saves them, and admits he used them as bait but never truly betrayed them. Back on the ship, Haruto, Satsuki, Asahi, and Clive regroup. Clive gives Asahi a red stone shard dropped by Ager. As she examines it, they share a vision of people in white robes and see Alicia helping Asahi by sealing her senses with Omnipotence Vanish. A red stone shatters into fragments and returning to reality, they wonder if the shard Clive gave is from that same stone. Haruto, Satsuki, Asahi, and Clive meet Takanori, who is stunned to see Clive, claiming he received no intel about his return. To prove he's real, Clive attacks, throwing knives that bypass Takanori's earth defenses before holding a blade to his throat. Takanori finally accepts it is truly Clive. Haruto then shows Pleiades, further confirming everything. Later, as they sit to talk, Takanori believes Clive might have answers. Clive explains that Alicia, the girl from their vision, summoned him. Haruto is shocked and admits he's met her before. When Satsuki and Asahi press him, he explains Alicia always appears and vanishes suddenly. He shares that after Simon stabbed him, Asahi's prophet art shifted him into another world by accident. Takanori is skeptical and says he'll believe it only when he meets Alicia himself, leading to an argument. Clive steps in and reminds them their focus should be protecting Asahi since Gnosis is trying to force her awakening. He says all Subaru members must awaken to protect her. As Haruto reflects on Alicia's words from the hospital, Satsuki brings up Nozomi. Takanori asks Haruto and Satsuki to visit her, explaining he won't go since Nozomi always got shy around him. In real life, Haruto and Satsuki visit Nozomi, who welcomes them warmly. At a restaurant, she shares that she's now an amateur model and worked hard to overcome her loneliness after changing schools. She improved her fashion and social skills, making new friends. When asked, Haruto says Takanori found her address as they invite her back to reunion. Nozomi declines, saying she's keeping her distance from games. After hearing about Asahi, she leaves, asking to see Takanori next time. Meanwhile, Haruto shows Nozomi's photos in-game, hoping she'll join. Satsuki urges Takanori to visit her, and though hesitant, he reconsiders when Asahi asks him. Suddenly, the group receives an in-game event notification for the sweet dance party, described as a night where everlasting love is born. In real life, Satsuki anxiously paces in her room before finally logging into the game. Inside, she meets Haruto and nervously brings up messaging Nozomi. Then, gathering her courage, she sweetly confesses she has liked him since elementary school, but circumstances changed. She asks him to invite her to the dance and tells him to give his answer by tomorrow, leaving Haruto flustered and unsure. That night, Haruto reflects on childhood memories and Satsuki's confession when he suddenly gets a message from Takanori asking him to come to Asahi's grave. There, Takanori places pink gerberas, Asahi's favorite flowers, and mentions he grows them at home. When Haruto recalls seeing those flowers recently, Takanori confirms it was the day Haruto took the ring from Asahi's grave. Haruto stays silent as Takanori declares he will invite Asahi to the dance party. When Haruto responds indifferently, Takanori snaps, punches him, and accuses him of not truly caring for Asahi. A fight breaks out, ending with Takanori knocking Haruto down and calling him lazy for not thinking about Asahi all these years. Haruto tries to fight again, but Takanori knocks him down and angrily demands to know why Asahi appeared in front of Haruto and protected him 6 years ago. Haruto challenges him, asking if he wishes Haruto had died instead of Asahi. Takanori admits he does and says everything would have been perfect that way. He confesses his love for Asahi, saying her smile saved him back in elementary school, and now he wants to protect it even at the cost of his life. Haruto responds that Asahi's happiness is not just in the game. She wants to go home and see her parents. He adds that she secretly cries but keeps smiling because she believes in her friends. What she truly wishes for is Subaru to reunite with no one missing. Haruto tells Takanori that real maturity is accepting him for Asahi's sake even if he hates him. Takanori tries to punch him again, but Haruto admits he loves Asahi too and punches back, saying he is not going to lose. Takanori says he quits, admitting he just wanted Haruto to admit his true feelings, and Haruto leaves. Afterward, Takanori returns the ring to Asahi's grave, the same ring he had asked Haruto's mom to give back. Later, at the dance party, Satsuki waits outside until Haruto arrives and apologizes for being late. Realizing he has not chosen her, Satsuki encourages him to go inside, then breaks down crying. Just then, Takanori appears and says Asahi turned down his dance invitation. He admits he is not upset, but just sees reality more clearly now. Then he offers his hand to Satsuki, and they enter together. Inside, Haruto asks Asahi to dance, and they enjoy the evening. Meanwhile, Nozomi, remembering her time with Subaru and Takanori, logs into the game and arrives at the party. But when she sees Takanori dancing with Satsuki, she feels hurt and leaves. Outside, she is ambushed by Gnosis members when the lights go out. Later, Satsuki and Haruto walk together when Haruto mentions Asahi was worried because Satsuki did not log in yesterday. Satsuki explains she went out with her family and tells Haruto not to worry, admitting she had been crying in reality but feels better now. Jokingly, she adds that he can come back to her anytime if Asahi rejects him. Soon, Takanori joins them outside Nozomi's house, where Satsuki shares that Nozomi's mom called last night to say Nozomi went missing. At Nozomi's house, her mom shows them Nozomi's room and the headset she found on her desk, saying Nozomi went out yesterday morning and none of her friends know where she is. The group apologizes for dragging Nozomi into their plan to bring everyone back. They're puzzled why she would run away from home. Takanori checks the data and finds she logged in 2 days ago. Haruto suggests they inform Clive. Later, the four connect on video chat as Clive shares his findings. He explains Nozomi first appeared in Alta Garden, then visited several towns before heading to the hall where the dance party was held. She left within 5 minutes and went to the sky. Clive confirms she is still in Reunion, but they are shocked because she is not at home. Clive says he cannot trace her current IP, but he has located her in the dungeon in the heavens, also called the Dragon's Fortress. Meanwhile, at their base, Haruto meets Asahi and sees she has decorated the place to feel more like home. She smiles, saying this is her home after all, then grabs his hand and says it felt like he wanted her to do it. Haruto suspects she used her empath sense, but she denies it. Suddenly, Clive arrives and both of them stand nervously as if caught off guard. Satsuki soon joins, mentioning it is time to leave for the Dragon's Fortress. They regroup at the fortress where Takanori is waiting. He explains the castle was shaped by the Dreamworld sense. Asahi notes it looks exactly like Nozomi's castle from 6 years ago. A memory from their childhood flashes back. Subaru battles a dragon that looks more like a giant snake inside the same castle. As the fight begins, Asahi directs Takanori to cover the rear and calls on Haruto and Clive for backup. She tells Nozomi to distract the dragon while instructing Haruto to attack from above. But the dragon freezes Haruto and Nozomi with its magic eyes. Takanori asks Satsuki if she can still use her elementals. Satsuki responds by unleashing her Pierce Bomb, finishing the dragon and saving them. As the fight ends, Asahi and Haruto argue. She demands to know why he ignored her call, while Haruto says they still won and insists he is not one of her pawns. He also says they should use Prophet Art only when truly needed. Nozomi and the others try to calm them, but their shouting ends with both declaring their friendship is over. Back in the game, the group enters the fortress and wonders how Nozomi managed to make it this far. The interior looks like a massive battle arena, eerily silent. Suddenly, Clive rushes ahead a bit too fast and accidentally triggers a hidden trap. In an instant, giant creatures resembling stuffed toys appear and surround them. They quickly recognize these as Nozomi's familiars. Asahi tries to call out to Nozomi, but one of the toy-like monsters lunges at her. Haruto steps in just in time, slashing it away. Clive mutters that they are clearly not welcome and draws his knives, stabbing one of the creatures. Haruto follows up, slicing another apart with his sword. Takanori and Satsuki join the fray as Satsuki unleashes the fire of eternal dominion, but to her frustration, the toys keep coming, seemingly unfazed. Through the chaos, they spot Nozomi's shadow lurking behind the creatures. One of the toys aims at Satsuki, but Takanori blocks the attack, finally breaking them out of the trap. Then, they all hear Nozomi's cold and unfamiliar laugh. She taunts Takanori for protecting Satsuki and greets the group in a chilling, almost mocking tone. When she spots Asahi, she tilts her head curiously, wondering aloud how real Asahi actually is. The others freeze, shocked by her twisted behavior as she gives off full Yuno Gasai vibes. Takanori, struggling to believe it, asks if she is really Nozomi. Nozomi smirks and tells them they are wasting their time if they came to see her. Before they can respond, two figures step out from the shadows. Cerinthus, the fifth Holochaos of Gnosis, known as the Dream Mage, welcomes them to his world of dreams. Beside him stands Martian, the fourth member of Gnosis, the so-called Divine Champion. The final blow comes when Nozomi casually reveals she has joined Gnosis and helps Cerinthus create the very castle they stand in. Suddenly, Cerinthus lets out a wild scream, declaring that it's showtime. All around them, strange creatures with bizarre shapes and forms appear, ready for battle. Haruto steps forward, eyes sharp, and says they will get their friend back even if they have to use force. The fight kicks off. Clive hurls his knives with precision, Takanori smashes through enemies with his fists. Haruto's sword cuts down one creature after another, and Asahi's gun blasts through the swarm. But then, Martian steps in, pulling out a massive flag and using it like a shield to block Satsuki's elemental attack. Haruto tries to follow up, swinging his sword at her, but she spins the flag, creating a whirling barrier that completely neutralizes his strike. The Subaru members freeze for a moment, stunned. Martian explains with eerie calm that it's one of Gnosis's linked senses, the swallowing sense. She says it accepts everything, accommodates every kind of happiness, and calls it the entrance to paradise. Nozomi waves her magical wand and calls out playfully, inviting them to play just like they did in childhood. The battle rages on. Asahi shoots down a toy monster and shouts that she has wanted to see Nozomi again. Nozomi replies coldly that she has nothing against Asahi. Takanori demands to know why she is doing this. Nozomi answers that her heart was let down. Satsuki pleads with her to wake up, reminding her that they are all here to save her. But Nozomi sneers at her, calling her a little whore for knowing her feelings and still laughing at them. Takanori, shocked, asks what she means, but Nozomi mocks him, saying he understands nothing. Haruto steps in, telling Nozomi they don't want to hurt her. Nozomi's expression hardens as she says she has made up her mind to take revenge, and there is no turning back. She releases a magical snake that darts forward and bites Asahi on the neck. Asahi screams, her body trembling, and she suddenly lashes out in a rage, shouting that she hates Haruto before collapsing unconscious. Nozomi laughs, saying she just gave Asahi a fun dream. Cerinthus grins and declares that tonight will be Asahi's end. Martian smiles, promising to welcome them all to her paradise. The three of them vanish into the shadows, leaving the Subaru team in stunned silence. Suddenly, an earthquake shakes the entire area, and the castle begins to collapse around them. Satsuki reacts quickly, summoning her elemental powers to create barriers and pathways, saving everyone from the falling debris. Later, back at their base, Asahi assures them she's fine now. Haruto, still concerned, suggests she stay at Takanori's guild home for the night where it would be safer. But Asahi gently refuses, saying she feels safest here. Haruto offers to stay with her to keep watch, but she reminds him that his parents and Haruna must be worried and tells him to leave Nozomi's responsibility to him, since she can't go into the real world herself. Just then, Satsuki and Clive enter mid-conversation, with Satsuki mentioning that she heard Takanori has mobilized the Illuminati Guild and gone out personally to search for Nozomi. Haruto explains that Asahi insists on staying at the base. Clive offers to stay instead, pointing out that his schedule is more flexible since he's in college now after skipping a grade, unlike Haruto, who still has high school to manage. Later, Clive and Asahi sit together for a while. Asahi quietly admits she's worried about how Nozomi's parents must be feeling. Clive tries to reassure her, saying they should trust Haruto and the others to handle that part. Afterward, he leaves her under the watch of Takanori's guard stationed outside the cave and heads off, planning to catch a fish for breakfast. As he leaves, the mark where the snake bit Asahi begins to glow faintly. The next morning, Takanori goes all in on finding Nozomi, hiring 10 private detectives to search for her in the real world. As he discusses the situation with Satsuki and Haruto, he brings up Nozomi's strange words from the battle, wondering why she said Takanori wanted to protect Satsuki. Satsuki pieces it together and suggests it's because Nozomi saw them dancing at the party. She gently points out that Nozomi must be in love with Takanori. Realization sinks in as Takanori sees how Gnosis exploited her jealousy. Feeling guilty, he vows to bring her back no matter what. Suddenly, all three start feeling dizzy, their heads spinning as they notice something strange. All the food on their table has vanished, and when they glance at the clock, they see it's nearly 5 even though they arrived around 11 and thought only an hour had passed. As confusion fills the air, a man appears before them and speaks calmly, saying that the flow of time follows the path of fixed destiny. Takanori immediately demands to know who the man is, but instead of answering, the figure begins rambling about the world being doomed to despair. He claims that humans must correct this flawed destiny and insists that only by gaining the power to choose an ideal world can the future truly change. His words echo with a strange conviction that makes everyone uneasy. Haruto's instincts scream danger, and he quickly suspects the man is from Gnosis. Before they can act, the man vanishes, and as if reality itself rewinds, time flows backward, restoring everything in the room, including their untouched food. Haruto recalls Alicia's words about Union senses working even in reality. Without wasting another second, he and the others rush to log in, determined to rescue Asahi. Meanwhile, a memory surfaces from their childhood. The group fights a fierce dragon inside Nozomi's castle, with Asahi leading them using her prophet art. But midway through, Haruto suddenly takes charge, shouting for Satsuki to strike with lightning and pushing everyone to attack before the dragon can regenerate. Clive lands the final blow, but the victory feels hollow. Asahi furiously confronts Haruto for defying her orders, but he defends his choice, arguing that his way worked. The argument escalates, and in a moment of anger, Asahi tells him to leave and never return. Shockingly, Haruto points his sword at her before storming off. Back at their base, Haruto finds Asahi quietly crying, troubled by strange dreams that won't leave her alone. Satsuki and Takanori arrive, both relieved to see she's safe. Clive joins soon after, listening as they fill him in on everything. He brings up Alicia's warning, reminding them she's trying to awaken them for reasons still unclear. Satsuki wonders aloud if Asahi's wish to revive Subaru stems from something she sensed deep down, something even she doesn't fully understand. Together, they question why that Gnosis member appeared before them. Suddenly, the ground trembles as the base starts to collapse around them. Asahi urges everyone to run, and they barely escape the destruction, the scene feeling like they just walked away from a Marvel finale explosion without so much as a scratch. The group escapes just in time and finds themselves in the shadow of a glowing tower rising into the sky. It looks exactly like the Tower of the White Water Spirit, a place only Nozomi could have created. Inside, they explore the familiar halls and quickly realize it's a perfect replica of the one they cleared years ago. As they move deeper, Haruto notices a faint purple glow pulsing on Asahi's neck. Concerned, he asks about it, but Asahi brushes it off, growing irritated when he presses her. When they reach the chamber where a mini-boss once appeared, Asahi suddenly calls out a warning to Takanori. But nothing happens. The group turns to her, puzzled, and she hesitates before admitting she saw a vision of a monster's tail about to strike him, but her limiter device is locked tight, like Kanki's mask sealing him in Tokyo Ghoul. Just then, a familiar door creaks open. Haruto's worry deepens at Asahi's strange behavior, and he suggests turning back, but Satsuki urges them to press on. Asahi insists she's fine, though tension crackles in her voice. When Haruto mentions that her prophet art isn't working right, she snaps, storms ahead, and insists on saving Nozomi herself. Outside, Alicia silently watches as they climb to the tower's top floor. There, Asahi hesitates, haunted by the memory of the day Haruto pointed his sword at her. Before they can speak, Nozomi appears at last, her eyes cold and distant. Asahi pleads for her to come back, recalling their friendship, but Nozomi only mocks the past, her voice sharp with bitterness. Satsuki and Takanori try to reason with her, suspecting Gnosis is controlling her, but Nozomi fires back that she was only pretending to be good all along. Without warning, she unleashes Eternity Break, her body transforming into a monstrous shape as she declares she's finally free. Takanori refuses to give up. He tells her this isn't real freedom and says he understands her pain. He promises they'll save her, and for a moment, something flickers in Nozomi's expression. But before she can respond, Martian and other Gnosis members appear, their presence snapping her back into rage. Martian gives the order, and Nozomi, consumed by the force inside her, summons magical creatures to attack. The team stands firm, shielding Asahi and preparing for the battle ahead. Meanwhile, Asahi struggles to use her prophet art, the glowing snake marks reappearing on her neck. She is overwhelmed by self-doubt, believing no one would follow her even with her powers just like before in this dungeon. Then she screams to stop these negative thoughts and everyone turns to look at her. At the same time, Cerinthus announces that he is at the Dreamworld Sense War Museum and unleashes his weapons with full force. As they escape the attack, Nozomi bitterly accuses Satsuki and Takanori of always being together. Satsuki tries to explain, but Nozomi attacks Takanori, regretting ever logging in. Still, Takanori is determined to save her and uses his breaker ability to isolate them by collapsing the floor beneath them. When Nozomi questions his actions, he tells her he just wants to talk. Nozomi attacks again, but Takanori refuses to fight back. Instead, he reminds her of a moment 6 years ago when she was lost and crying in a dungeon, and he gave her hope. He admits he never truly broke out of his own shell and confesses his love for Asahi, revealing the pain it caused him. Nozomi angrily brings up his dance with Satsuki, but he explains they were comforting each other after losing Haruto and Asahi. He apologizes for hurting her and approaches her with his shield ready to atone. Suddenly, the hostile creatures vanish the moment they touch her and Takanori reveals he used the divinity sense to bring them into the dream world. Nozomi is shocked, saying hostile entities cannot be transported that way. Realizing she is no longer hostile, Takanori restores her true self. As Nozomi breaks down, admitting she only wanted him to notice her, he embraces her and promises to carry both her burden and his own as he removes the evil sense from her. Nozomi regains her senses and regrets her actions. Takanori reassures her, admitting he wants to be with her and that she is a part of him. They decide to return to Subaru, though Nozomi remains worried about Asahi. Meanwhile, Haruto suddenly gets shot in the chest. Meanwhile, Takanori and Nozomi fall to the ground. Cerinthus asks what Nozomi is doing, but Martian replies that it doesn't matter since she has already played her part by releasing the snakes that bit Asahi earlier. Martian then orders Cerinthus to finish the job. Suddenly, a magical cloth begins to surround them. Haruto shouts for everyone not to move, or they will get trapped. Satsuki uses her elemental powers to break through the cloth, but it doesn't work. Cerinthus attacks Satsuki, who struggles to defend herself. Martian hints at Asahi's key role, claiming she will be worshipped for eternity and is essential to their paradise. Haruto refuses to accept this and jumps into the fight, joined by Clive and Satsuki. As Martian becomes trapped and Haruto is about to defeat Cerinthus, Asahi suddenly yells for him to stop. She then calmly gives strategic commands to the team, but seems distant and detached. As she turns away, continuing to direct the battle, Cerinthus frees Martian, declaring this the start of the real event. Haruto tries to reach Asahi, but she appears lost, her eyes wide and vacant. Asahi is caught in a childhood memory. She sees Haruto attacking her and instinctively shoots him, only to realize she has actually shot him in reality. Horrified, she breaks down and tries to wake him, pleading that it was just a dream. Satsuki rushes to comfort her, but Asahi begins glowing intensely. Meanwhile, Clive is caught in a trap as Cerinthus declares the goddess is awakening. Martian credits Nozomi for breaking Asahi's spirit, which has led to her full awakening. Asahi screams as Cerinthus seals her inside a magical hexahedron. At the same time, Takanori and Nozomi rush to save Asahi. Nozomi admits she recreated the tower to amplify Asahi's pain and apologizes, fearing it may now be unstoppable. Takanori reassures her there is still time. Meanwhile, Clive urges Satsuki to leave him behind and focus on saving Haruto. Satsuki tries to heal Haruto with magic, but soon realizes that only natural recovery will work. She manages to slow his weakening but cannot fully heal him. As Cerinthus moves in to kill Clive, Alicia suddenly appears and saves him. Martian expresses surprise at her arrival, and Cerinthus calls it their lucky day. Alicia responds coldly, saying she did not come for Gnosis. Clive remarks that she is late. Suddenly, the magical hexahedron shatters and Asahi breaks free. Then we see Haruto in a dark room asking where he is. He starts searching for everyone and soon finds Asahi crying nearby. She forbids him from coming close, but Haruto wipes her tears and asks her not to cry. Back in their memory, the scene resumes from when Haruto pointed his sword at Asahi and used it to defeat a monster behind her. He tells Asahi this is what he would do if he becomes stronger to protect her from everything so she does not have to cry anymore. As the memory ends, Haruto stands up and says he will become stronger than ever for Asahi. Then he approaches her, and she thanks him for keeping his promise. Haruto replies that she was able to come back because of herself. Meanwhile, Cerinthus and Martian wonder if they have also awakened Haruto. Clive comments on how the tables have turned. Cerinthus suggests they retreat for now, but Martian admits she is too ashamed to return without capturing Asahi. Suddenly, Takanori and Nozomi appear, saying they will not let her escape in the first place. Nozomi adds that she will never forgive them for using her to hurt everyone. Haruto challenges them to fight while Martian and Cerinthus use their linked sense called Utopia to surround everyone. Martian tells Asahi that all her friends will disappear from this world, but she firmly replies that Subaru will never lose. Haruto begins gathering his powers. Cerinthus then unleashes his power called the Eternal Fire, but Haruto counters with White Lion, destroying the attack and everything around it. Watching this, Martian and Cerinthus grow worried, wondering what will become of their paradise and ideal future. Meanwhile, a man sits calmly in an office far away. Next, all the Subaru members stand together with Alicia. Nozomi starts apologizing for her mistakes, and Asahi hugs her warmly. Everyone feels glad that Nozomi has returned. Nozomi also apologizes to Satsuki for the harsh words she said before, but Satsuki tells her she is the one who should apologize for causing the misunderstanding. Alicia adds that none of it matters unless the members of Subaru gather together with their own strength. Satsuki tells Alicia that there is much more she should share and thanks her for saving them. Then, Asahi asks if Alicia has saved her somewhere else, based on her visions. Alicia confirms this and adds that she is here to return Pleiades' sheath, which she found on the ground in the Lost Pentagon. Takanori asks Nozomi about it, and she confirms that she created Pleiades' sheath using the Dreamworld sense. Clive comments that everything has now come full circle, back to the beginning. Soon after, Haruto wonders why Pleiades has 7 jewels if Subaru is a star system with 6 stars. Alicia explains that Subaru is actually a star cluster, not just a system. She adds that some see 6 stars while others see 7, which explains the various legends surrounding it worldwide. Suddenly, Alicia disappears, leaving everyone confused. Later, Nozomi is asleep at a cyber cafe when Takanori wakes her up. She looks confused at first, but he gently reminds her that he promised to come and get her. Tears well up in Nozomi's eyes as she breaks down and hugs Takanori. He comforts her and takes on the responsibility of explaining everything to her parents. Nozomi thanks him softly, and they both blush slightly. Meanwhile, Clive receives a message from Takanori saying he has secured Nozomi and will take her to her parents. Elsewhere, Satsuki is asleep at her study table, a photo frame of Subaru's family nearby. Later, the group decides to get together on chat. Haruto gazes at his ring, thinking about how Asahi truly brought Subaru back to life. He is then interrupted by Haruna, and he wishes her good luck on her test tomorrow. She comments that he looks happier these days, and Haruto replies it's because of the companionship of his friends. Back in the game, Asahi greets everyone with a cheerful good morning. They all seem excited to take their first action together since Subaru's revival. Clive mentions he found an event that sounds fun, but Takanori suggests they focus on rebuilding their base first. Nozomi volunteers to take responsibility for the rebuild, and Asahi offers to help. Haruto adds that they have to protect each other's happiness and smiles. Satsuki nods, saying that is exactly why Subaru has been brought back to life. Watching all this from above, Alicia looks on with a reaffirming gaze toward Haruto. Then a news broadcast plays on the radio, reporting that an anti-government group opposing the special preferential law for persons with senses under the census special law has been uncovered. Meanwhile, the Subaru gang promises to trust their friends, hone their senses, and grow stronger. They vow to shine brighter than anyone else, united by their sworn bond. Together, they cheer and shout that they will become legends.